Hello, I'm going to be talking about the persecution of Christians. And I'll start in 2018 when the then Foreign Secretary, Jeremy Hunt, ordered an investigation into the persecution of Christians. This was sparked by the Asia Bibi imprisonment in Pakistan, but he tried not to actually talk about that in particular. Mr. Hunt said that since Christianity was the established church of these islands, it was a legitimate field of research for the government to embark on. He then went on to opine that the growing persecution of Christians in some countries is often a symbol of wider persecution. I think he probably meant symptom, but that could have been a Guardian typo, so I don't know. Well, what happened to that report? You may well ask. And the answer is I'm asking as well, because I don't know. It seems to have dropped without trace. Later on, Hunt talked about the idea of boycotts or sanctions on countries that persecuted Christians. Well, puff of smoke there. Okay, so in the intervening period, we've had some, small reports of brown and black Christians being kidnapped or shot in their schools by Islamists, but, well, we don't pay much attention to that now, do we? So how about something a little bit nearer home? I'm going to be talking about a lady called Hatun Tash. She's a Turkish convert from Islam to Christianity who preaches the gospel at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park fairly regularly. I had actually heard of her before, but most people, especially those who don't frequent Speaker's Corner, and it's become a very unpleasant place, so I couldn't blame them, would not be familiar with her. However, I should think that most news outlets do know who she is. They would have got the reports. It isn't as if she hasn't been in previous clashes. Not with Muslims, although those too, but with the police. Yeah, a Christian preacher, a 29-year-old little woman, has been in trouble with the police over her Christian preaching at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park, where free speech is constitutionally guaranteed. Okay, I'll get to that later. But you might be interested in all these newspapers who must have known about Miss Tash, how they reacted to an attack on her a few days ago when a man jumped out of the crowd wielding a knife and punched her and then tried to kill her with the knife. He was chased by bystanders and a couple of, possibly slightly out of condition police, but he wasn't caught. The knife was. That was recovered in bushes somewhere. I will again reiterate, Speaker's Corner is supposed to be a sanctuary of free speech. It's got a history going back to 1872. And since we actually don't have freedom of speech enshrined in law round here, and the Racial and Religious Hatred Act does do a lot of muzzling, Speaker's Corner is an increasingly precious place. It's also a place which has been colonised by a regular attendance of Muslim radicals. Any Christian who chooses to preach there is in what we might call an intimidatory environment. Now, in July, Ms. Tash was assaulted at Speaker's Corner. That was July. In August, the police asked her not to go there because they had credible intelligence, they said, that her life was in danger. And she went there anyway. In September, she was escorted by the police out of Speaker's Corner. They say it was for her own safety because threats had been made against her life. Her supporters say she was actually arrested. Whatever. The police were preventing the victim from speaking to placate the criminals who were threatening her. When people complained about this, our Night Mayor of London, Sadiq can't responded with the following letter. Now, let me find it here. Here we are. Regarding Hatun's case, he'd got the name wrong. Hatun is her first name. So he can't even get that right. I mean, not only he's calling her by a first name when he shouldn't be, but he's even misspelt that. Hatun was escorted out of the park for her own safety, it says here, after a large and hostile crowd had gathered around her. We may ask why the large and hostile crowd was not dispersed. After all, isn't that what the police are supposed to do? She was then moved away from the park to prevent any disorder from occurring. Yeah. A subsequent decision was taken to clear the crowd due to rising tensions. They should have cleared the crowd first and let Miss Tash stay there, shouldn't they? That's if they were really interested in free speech. And then, here, they've got the name spelt right here. Hatun was informed by police that she could be liable to arrest should she return to Speaker's Corner that evening. So they were threatening her with arrest. And then in the very next sentence, he says there's no bar on her returning to Speaker's Corner. Right, so that's what the police... hang on. The final paragraph. As you know, freedom of speech is a principle that I hold dear. You know, those people who say, I believe in freedom of speech, but... And that's a sure sign they don't. Anyway, right, so that's Sadiq Khan's letter. Then in October, Miss Tash was punched in the face by an irate Muslim and knocked unconscious. This was an Algerian, I believe. Some people have said he was a Christian. I doubt that. Muslim sources say she was merely slapped, not punched. So, well, that's all right then. Miss Tash was removed by the police again in December 2020. And now she's been stabbed. And as you know, the man made his escape. So all the newspapers would have got all of this. They knew all about her. So why do you think the first news reports of the incident ran these headlines? I'm going to read them all out. Now, apparently she was wearing a Charlie Hebdo t-shirt. I don't know what it said on it, but I've been given to understand it just said Charlie Hebdo on it, and it had that cartoon saying love, or even just the words, love is stronger than hate. Hardly inflammatory, I'd say. But this is what the headlines said, which is this. This is the Metro. Woman in Charlie Hebdo shirt stabbed at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park. That's what she is, a woman in a Charlie Hebdo shirt, which means she's inflammatory, Nazi, anti-Islamic, something like that. Yeah? So that's the Metro. The next one is an online magazine called Dawn. Woman in Charlie Hebdo t-shirt stabbed in London Park. All right, this is the Daily Mail. Charlie Hebdo t-shirt wearing woman is stabbed at Speaker's Corner in Hyde Park by a man dressed all in black who fled the scene. Evening Standard came up with counter-terrorism officers investigating Speaker's Corner knife attack on woman in Charlie Hebdo t-shirt. Now, Euro News says UK police appeal after woman wearing Charlie Hebdo t-shirt stabbed in London Park. And the Times came up with woman in Charlie Hebdo t-shirt stabbed at Speaker's Corner. Okay. It's sort of odd, isn't it, that all they could say was an unidentified woman, and they must have known who it was. And then she's not a Christian preacher, because that's really what was happening. A Christian preacher, not a woman in a Charlie Hebdo t-shirt, a Christian preacher was stabbed for speaking her mind about Christianity and Islam in Hyde Park. at Speaker's Corner, the sanctuary, the shrine of free speech. But they wouldn't say that. No, she's just a woman in a Charlie Hebdo t-shirt, which is provocative, and she was asking for it, wasn't she? The other point I have to make is it's interesting that no one doubts that the assailant was a Muslim. It's sort of odd, isn't it, why everyone should have come to that conclusion even before they found the perpetrator. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the Graniopteryx design or Grambo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.graniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share, share, share.